Good afternoon. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. We're going to start today with hot topics. The world is looking at Memphis as it should. But before we talk about that, I want to invite those of you who are connected to join this channel, join the movement, join the conversation. We're trying to grow our engagement, our community via our YouTube channel, the Insight News YouTube channel. And you may be connecting with us right now from YouTube on Black Press USA, which is the channel of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Thank you for them for their collaboration. You may be connecting on the Insight Facebook page, the Insight Twitter page, or the Insight LinkedIn page. You could be connecting via the Facebook page of NNPA, Black Press USA. However you're connected, thank you. Thank you. But what I want you to do is to help us grow the circulation or the number of members that we have or subscribers we have at Insight News YouTube. So take a minute, go over to YouTube, Insight News channel, subscribe, like, and share, and take a minute and tell people that we're having this conversation about critical issues in our community. Well, as a hot topic, first of all, I'm going to talk about the fact that the Memphis Commercial Appeal has reported that a sixth Memphis police officer has been relieved of duty over the fatal traffic stop that ended the life of Tyree Nichols. An article written by Lucas Fenton, published about an hour or so ago in the Memphis Commercial Appeal, reads that a sixth Memphis police officer has been placed on leave in connection with the death of Tyree Nichols, the 29-year-old driver who died after a traffic stop. Officer Preston Hemphill was placed on leave. A spokesman for the Memphis Police Department confirmed Monday to the Commercial Appeal, which is part of the USA Today network. The spokesperson confirmed Hemphill, who was hired by Memphis Police Department in 2018, has been on leave since the beginning of the investigation. In its initial narrative, the police department said the officers involved had been relieved of duty, but did not say how many officers they were talking about. The department declined to give a total number of officers when confirming Hemphill's leave today. But you know, if you've watched the video, there was a bunch. I mean, a whole bunch, a lot of people there on the scene, police officers, other first responders, sheriff's department people, etc. Continuing the article from the Commercial Appeal, Memphis police declined to specify the reasons for Hemphill being placed on leave, but he's not been charged with a crime. The department did not respond to the Commercial Appeal's question as to whether Hemphill was part of the Scorpion Unit, a specialized unit that focuses on concentrating officers in areas with high crime. The 5 former officers who have been charged in Nichols' death were on assignment with that unit on January 7th. That unit is now permanently disbanded and under investigation. The 5 former officers were fired on January 20th as a result of the department's internal investigation into the events that preceded Nichols' death. They were indicted about a week later, and now they faced second-degree murder charges, along with assault and kidnapping charges. Also, the FBI is investigating the circumstances of Nichols' death. Nichols died January 10th, 3 days after he was beaten and then hospitalized. Well, you know, if you are like most Americans, you are sick to your stomach at what you witnessed, what we saw in this brutal beating of this young man. And we fortunately have been getting reports from community members and newscasters like Roland Martin and others who are painting a very human and loving picture of Tyree Nelson. Apparently the guy was like over 6 feet tall, very thin, wafer thin, like 150 pounds or so, And at 29, an avid, I'd say almost pro-level skateboarder. There is video of him doing phenomenal stuff on skateboards in apparently skateboard parks or areas where they can do, like the railings and stairs and jump over places. So this guy focused energy on skateboarding. And when we saw the video of him being pulled from the police car, he seemed, from my point of view, to be complying as best he could while asking, why are you doing this? And these guys, unbelievable. So the question is, we didn't think this would happen with someone Black. We often had held this idea. There's video of the skateboard. Let's show that while we're talking here. We often think that if we have Black officers in the Black community, we have less crime, not less crime, well, less crime, but also less abuse of our citizens, Black citizens in particular, by those officers. But this really makes us ask the question, is it about the abuse of power just by white people? Or is there something about the philosophy, the process, the attitude, the culture of policing in America that enables people to separate themselves from their own humanity and do the dastardly deeds that have been done, resulting in the murder of our people? And so we find the country often willing to say, oh, if you people are killing your own people, then it's okay for us to kill you, or don't complain when, for good reason or bad or accident, one of our people kills you. All of that is crazy in my point of view. And I think it tells us that we have to focus on how we demand justice from everybody, everywhere, all the time. And that includes justice for ourselves and our households when we find ourselves in opposition to the well-being of community, of each other, of society. We have to adopt a process and a policy, an understanding of what it means to have justice and to be the owners of the system of justice in our community. Well, the other hot note item that I want to talk about just briefly before we move into the program is a story that was in Insight News this past week, or today's paper actually. And the story is entitled, Where Do I Belong? And it's an exploration of identity. And a good friend of mine, of ours, Brother Resma Menachem, sent an article in a few days ago, or an announcement in, about people he's working with to examine the question of identity and belonging. And it's being offered as an opportunity for people to learn about questions. It talks about two of his colleagues that he is just endorsing in a broad way, named Leticia Nieto and Karine Bell. And with them, they're launching a 4-month-long exploration specifically for people who occupy the cracks in our conversation about race. That is, that they're looking at long imagined a space where those people who identify as bi or multicultural could, in their commitment to anti-Blackness and anti-racism, sit and explore the borderline of identity. So this program is called Where Do I Belong? An exploration of identity and belonging for bicultural and multicultural bodies. The information about it, go to, let me find a place where you can find the information. Go to rootedglobalvillage.com and get the information. It's important. A lot of times we hear ourselves operating in division, where we continue to divide ourselves and other selves away from each other. I think that this discussion is one that allows us to be ourselves, but not in a way that is based on the division of our identity, our story from the human story, but one that allows us to walk into community, communion, cooperation with other human beings, fully empowered, fully embodying our legacy, our history, our story, and able to share and gain and exchange stories on a playing field that respects identity, equity, vision, and possibility. Check it out. And it's particularly useful as we move into and consider the challenges of being bicultural or multicultural or operating in arenas where we acknowledge that culture simply doesn't mean European culture only. It's all of us everywhere all the time. Well, with that, I want to again thank you for being here and thank you for being part of the conversation. If you have ideas or suggestions that you'd like for us to take on in Hot Topics or people you think we should talk to for the interview, we'd love to have you send those to us. You can send an email to us at the conversation, actually scheduling the conversation at insightnews.com. We'll put something up on the screen to let you know how to connect with us. I want to begin now by bringing in my guest for the day. And it's a person who's legendary in the community, I'd say in the world, as an artist, as a creative, as a spirit, and who has dedicated a life to creating representation that brings beauty, brings awareness, brings knowledge. Peyton Scott Russell, among other things, is known for his work as a graffiti artist, but I think in general, known as and appreciated as, loved as an artist, a person that brings and conceptualizes and then presents beauty, art, culture through his work. Brother Peyton Scott Russell, good to see you. How you doing? Welcome to the conversation.
Well, hello. My mic is good. Everything is.
Mic is perfect.
All right.
Picture's good. Good.
Thank
good.
you, Al. Thank you so much for having me on. I super appreciate this opportunity. So.
Well, you know, I think you've been doing so much, and right now you're putting up a show that reflects your 40th year of producing in the marketplace. I think that's huge. It's amazing and wonderful. Talk about your history and the show.
Sure. So it's funny because all the information got printed at 40. And as I started to dive in to find things, I actually found things a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at closer to 45 years of work from my elementary school days until last night, like literally. So, you know, the show opens this Thursday, and I'm still, you know, I work every night, and I'm still kind of like producing some things, but I think I've got everything in the gallery that I want. Yeah, so I don't think I'll be cramming in at the last minute trying to get things in. And as you can hear, there's a little bit of noise in the back because you know we're in the gallery, we're setting up right now, and
you're working. Well, that's cool. Well, that makes this show even more special because the work is in progress, and I think that's so cool. Where is the gallery? And how long does the show last? First of all, I want to say this now, but say it again and again over the course of the interview to remind people to come check it out.
Yeah, so it's in White Bear Lake at the White Bear Center for the Arts. Again, yes, in White Bear Lake. Again, it opens this Thursday, 6:30 through 8:30, and it runs till March 3rd.
Okay, and how many pieces of work are you going to be showing?
Oh, actually, I don't have an actual count. That's actually a really good question. I should probably count, but the gallery is completely full. I'm actually even discovering new spaces to hang a few things. You know, kind of not traditional gallery mode.
How large is the gallery? How large is the place that you're going to be exhibiting in?
Square feet? I don't know. It's about 1,000 square feet, I'm thinking.
Is it one huge room?
It's about 1,000 square feet here. It'd be like 2,000. We got Kyle up on the lift.
Hey, Kyle.
doing a few things. Yeah, he told me it's maybe about 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
And
Okay.
once I started, it was weird because I was already trying to figure out like what wasn't going in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I've got so much work. Even though the gallery is large, it's not large enough for me to show everything.
Wow.
It's just really a fraction of it,
Yeah.
and I've been like having to make hard decisions to try to
Mm-hmm.
keep the story, concise and flowing. But I had to eliminate a few things that I didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to put the show together, and you got to make some decisions sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to do two things in this interview. One is ask you to walk us through, give us a behind the scenes where you show us your work, things that capture your eye as you walk through, and sort of explain, talk about, let me ask you questions about the particulars on those items. But I also want to talk about Peyton Scott Russell. And I actually want to start there by, brother, asking you just your vision, your mission as an artist. When the history books are opened a thousand years from now, and people look at the biographies and bibliographies and come across your name, what will they be saying about Peyton Scott Russell?
Wow, nice big question. I mean that is yet to be written.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my early 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I got another 50 more. Uh, I'm incredibly prolific. Most people that know me know that I produce. My thing is about accomplishing, setting goals, and trying to reach them. And as far as art, I want to know that I contributed to humanity in some way. Some contribution that made things better for everyone by storytelling and making art that gets people to ask questions. Um, I love working in a variety of mediums. I like to kind of find what the pulse of society is reacting to, and then try to create something that speaks to that. And I know that graffiti art, for one, when I discovered that back in high school in the mid '80s, was the one thing that kind of freshened my spirit. It gave me a sense of like I was actually speaking to people.
Mm-hmm.
Going out into the environment and using infrastructure as my canvas to tell stories. I actually, obviously back then I couldn't articulate that, but
Mm-hmm.
as time went on, being a graffiti writer and the whole argument about the destruction of property and vandalism is definitely something that can be talked about. But I definitely went after the whole idea of using infrastructure as a canvas to share a story, to get my name out there, to let people know that hey, I exist, I matter, I'm trying to express myself, and just being explorative and just going out finding adventure and learning things about myself. Working under pressure. A lot of street artists and graffiti artists understand what that is to try to be a creative in an environment that has a lot of pressure. Um, and it just kind of brings a lot of things out in you. And so that's the thing that I love the most about like working in graffiti, and it's the one thread since high school that's remained consistent through my work. I've done a lot of things through different mediums and tried, realism through abstraction, through impressionism, uh, still life drawings, and graffiti is the one thing that kind of kept resurfacing from time to time until now. And now it's the one thing that kind of identifies like what I do. I've been able to take the art of graffiti and use it as a teaching curriculum and an educational curriculum,
Wow.
and show people like the benefit of it. I
Mm-hmm.
strongly feel that graffiti is a benefit to society and not seen as a detriment only through vandalism. So these are kind of conversations that I have in my classes. um, that the art of creative lettering and the use of spray paint and aerosol and how to do murals. These are like the positive aspects that graffiti itself, even the title and the name, can provide people if you use it like more on that positive standpoint.
The name graffiti, graphite, right? Graphite, the lead substance for writing. That's where it comes from, correct?
Yes, actually, graffiti is an Italian word that means to write, scribble, scratch on a surface. It
Uh-huh.
really doesn't have anything to do with
The lead.
messaging or art,
Mm-hmm.
vandalism. It just
Mm-hmm.
means markings on a surface.
Mm-hmm.
That's the original term. But,
Mm-hmm.
as time went on, we've redefined that in so many ways. Now it involves writing, it involves style, it involves culture. Um, I mean, it just really has a whole lot of meanings that has been, formed through the way humanity has used it.
Let me ask you when you discovered that your gifts, your talents included your ability to both see and produce in an arena that we would call art, that you recognize as art, as opposed to whatever else it might have been. How old were you, and was there a moment of discovery for you?
Hmm. I have to say that was pretty early. That was very early on. It's one thing that I feel really blessed about, that even as a child, I knew that, art was going to be something that I was going to do forever. I didn't know quite that it was going to be a career when I was younger. Uh, it was just something that I kind of lived, breathed, and ate and slept with. Even through high school, I didn't even know I could go to college for art. I was under all this pressure about trying to pick a career, and, talking to counselors and just trying to figure out, like, well, what are you going to do after high school? You going to college? You going to get a job? And, I would I'd make up these stories about what I wanted to do. And then finally someone told me that, hey man, you can go to school for art. And so I was like, wow, wow. So started throwing portfolios around and got accepted to several different schools. Ended up going to the Chicago Art Institute,
Mhm.
um, in the late 80s, early 90s. But, going back, um, as a youth, just really understanding that making art gave me status. It
Mhm.
gave me, it helped me get recognized. Like in my classroom, I would make something, and then the kids in the school would be like, "Wow, look what you can do! That, like, you did that whole thing, and, can you draw me one?" And, it definitely just kind of put me on a really great trajectory. Like, I can make people feel good. I can
Yeah.
kind of move the crowd, and just get people to see me. To, like, really see me.
Did you accept that as a gift? Did you explain it to yourself as a gift, or did you discover it as a product of intensive concentration, focus, and study, or both?
Both, both. I knew that the average person, couldn't draw the way I could, or come up with these ideas for making things. So I knew I had a gift there. But, as I got older, it was a grind. It was a hustle. Trying to have shows, trying to, make a living as an artist. As we all know, the whole starving artist concept. I done been there, done that several times over. Um, just struggling with trying to pay bills, and,
Mhm.
trying to be this free spirit. So it was a hustle and a grind. I mean, it still is.
Mhm.
It still is.
Mhm.
But, I think probably one of my greatest attributes is my drive, is my hunger to go after, again, set a goal, and to go after it, to try to achieve that goal.
Do you ever feel a weight, or the weight of the world on your shoulders, on your art? Do you ever feel uh, oppressed, squeezed by circumstance, or by the difficulty of the hustle? Um, let me go. Yeah, I'm speaking now as a writer and entrepreneur, and I connect with you on this sense of having a drive that really is indomitable. But yet and still, there are days when I wonder, uh, I just wonder in ways that I don't want to wonder. You ever deal with that at all as a creative and as an artist?
Yes. I think what I'm feeling, you're saying the wonder part. Um, you throw a bunch of irons in the fire, darts on a wall, you see what sticks. You know, I never, there's one thing though I never did, is I never second guessed my creative drive. Uh,
Mm.
I've never second guessed that. Again, it's just something I feel like I've been born with, and it
Mhm.
has just always been there. And whether or not I can persuade people to come to the shows, take a look, to purchase a piece of work, to give me a commission, to maybe I'm accepted in, I get the application on the grant. These are the things that I would question, like how can I be better at that?
Mhm.
How can I land that a little stronger? But at the end of the night, I'm at home, I'm sketching, I'm doodling, I'm drawing. It's just sort of a release. It's it's just the way that I like unwind, or go to a museum or a gallery, see who else is showing stuff, and ask questions. How do they do it? How do you get on the scene? How do you how do you get those breaks?
Mhm. Mhm.
How do you
When,
find the break?
when were you born?
69.
69. Okay. And so I'm trying to think of some milestone events in your life that I wonder how they impacted you, but what comes up, maybe Rodney King, George Floyd, now brother Tyree. How do events like that, how do uh, how does the news and the information and the public reaction to these events affect you personally and show up in your work, if they do?
Yeah, so for the most part, it doesn't.
Okay.
Um, I'm very much a loner. I think it's just the product of one, being a child of divorce, moving from parent to parent, city to city, and just having to kind of do for myself, and not trying to be too affected on what's around me, and just kind of do the things that I feel that are important to me.
Mm.
How I feel, how do I feel? So it's kind of it's my escape from the world, to get away. However, there has been a few moments that's affected me pretty deeply, and I had to go out and do something about it. I mean, obviously, one is the murder of George Floyd. Um, that took place in 38th in Chicago. That was my childhood corner. That was the corner that I grew up on. I had my parents had a home on 40th and Park,
Mhm.
and Phelps Park was our playground. And that particular corner, back in the 70s, in the early 80s, they had 7-Eleven on the corner, and Cup Foods, Wilharms, we called it Wilharms. They had the first video games, and so all the kids would meet there, and we'd play Asteroids and Space Invaders, get kicked out sometimes, just being little kids. But that corner was the corner that I grew up on. When I was about 12 years old, my mother moved off of the corner, and then we lived in Wisconsin for a quick moment, and then I moved back in with my dad, and that's when I moved over north. Started North High, and been a North Sider ever since. But so when I found the events of when that Facebook post came out, what happened on that corner, um, you know, Mr. Floyd is, he's incredibly dark skinned, just like my father.
Mhm.
And there's some similarities there. And so that kind of, that affected me. And then the fact that it was right on that corner, you know, that affected me. And that event affected me way more than the others,
Mm.
and right in the beginning, I thought I was alone in that. Um, I just was infuriated, and I wanted to go out, and I wanted to physically protest, and I wanted to join in and march, and tear some stuff up. Um, and then I had some mentors and some elders saying, "Hey, you got two kids, calm down, think of something different to do. You have a stronger voice, maybe use that." I was like,
Mm.
"Wow, they're right. Um,
Mm.
Let me use my art to protest. Let me do something. What can I do?" Um, and as a graffiti writer, I thought, okay, I got to do something like that. I'm going to go out, and I'm going to do something, um, that needs to be super impactful. And so at the time I was doing all these face stencils. As you can see behind me, I do a lot of faces, stencils. I said, okay, his selfie started surfacing. So I took that selfie and I was like, all right, I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna want to make this as big as I can, and I'm gonna place it somewhere that's incredibly intrusive. Like I'm gonna block traffic. I'm gonna put this somewhere right in the middle of the street, so it stops traffic. I had a bunch of sculpture friends that said that that was possible. We could bolt it into the street, but a 20-mile-an-hour wind it's gonna blow it over, and the city definitely is gonna come and remove it.
Take it, sure.
Yep, you'll probably get a few hours out of it, maybe a half a day, and then it'll be gone. So they persuaded me to think of another location, something that would live a little bit longer. And of course, when I did it, it was like a spur of the moment type of thing. A few of my friends got together. We picked up wood that we kind of had laying around. We weren't thinking of anything archival or anything that would last any. So the wood wasn't great. And I painted that face. I painted that black and white face, and bolted that into the bus shelter that was like 5 yards from where the incident happened. And everybody had their phones out. Originally it was supposed to be an anonymous install, an act of street art. It pops up overnight like a mushroom. You know who did it. You don't know what it's about. So that was my sort of impetus for putting that up.
And that's the spirit of graffiti in many ways, right?
Correct. And of course, I made the piece very large. It was super heavy, and I needed help. I needed to have a lot of people come and help move it in place. And of course, people had their phones out, and man, that thing went viral, and got blasted out there. And of course, for that reason, I'm really appreciative that I got recognition as an artist for that. But I'm incredibly angry and sad that it had to take that event to do that. A lot of things followed afterwards. Again, my name kind of surfaced around, and I got a bunch of shows and was able to travel to different events, and I got to meet people, and just in the last 3 years, things have been great. As far as my career as an artist, but it had to take that traumatic event for that to happen.
Yeah, that was a big jolt. I think that jolt affected everybody, everywhere, at one level or another. And I think that the society, the community still are responding to the consequence, the enormity of the event. Not that the event was unique, but that we saw it in the way we saw it. And the same, I think, is true unfolding now in Memphis with the Tyree Nelson death. And the question becomes, how do we, on the one hand, as you said, try to stay focused on what we are doing and who we are and sort of our lane, and not be buffeted by these massively incredible events, but at the same time, use our gift and our voices and our presence to be tools for interpretation and establishing where we go as humanity, recognizing our role and our power. So, what's the inspiration for this exhibit? I know you said 40 years, but is there a thematic inspiration for what you are ending up with as you're installing it now still?
So that was actually brought to me. Someone asked me, hey, you should do like a retrospect and show like some of your work all together. And I've never done that. So I said, that would be a great idea. And it's just, it's funny that you say that, because we're still building that right now. I keep going home and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm gonna take that piece down and let's put this one up. Well, we don't have a label for that one, and it's like, now we got to recreate new labels. But I'm really, again, I think the most common thread here is the graffiti thread. I've got the majority of that stuff. A lot of my new stuff here, my faces, stencils, the whole idea of like with graffiti and street art kind of the importance, I think, because of recent events over the last 3 years, I think a lot of people have kind of discovered how important like street art is. You know, it's an art that's created in the moment that can bring community together for healing and understanding and comfort. You know, as people start looking at surfaces again as storytelling canvases. And I think people have softened over the idea that graffiti is just simply vandalism and it's negative and it's destruction of property. So that's kind of the thread that I'm really going. I'm hitting it pretty good. You know how this whole street art thing, and of course I'm in a gallery. There's no like technical like graffiti here because it's on canvas. You know, it's in an inside space. But it's really the aesthetics. It's the look of it, the letter forms, aerosol, spray paint, stencils. So yeah, the bigger theme is the graffiti. But again, it's a journey since what I think 78, 1978 until literally last night. And it's, you know, again, I had to make some decisions. I had to cut a few things, but it's definitely a journey of all that stuff.
Who are some of your favorite up and coming artists? Who are some of the ones that you see as influences for you in your work? And who do you see coming up on the art scene that you want to give some props to?
Well, I mean, I've been studying a lot about Bisa Butler. You know, she's kind of like upper contemporary, you know, fabrics and quilting, but her colors and the fact that she uses like materials and quilting and to do these portraits, you know, largely of Black America, is incredibly inspiring. That color and that pop, I really love that. And you know, I mean, I kind of always go back to the old like the famous classical artist, abstract expressionistic artists. You know, Jackson Pollock, Kandinsky, and Newman and Rothko, and you know, you know, can I turn my camera around and show?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Let me fumble around here just for a second.
And you can sort of walk us through the gallery if you want and just explain or talk about pieces as you see them.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to be jumping around here just a little bit. Here I'm at the beginning, right? This is sort of the beginning. Let me see if I can. All right, yes. Okay, so these are my super early works. You know, if I could just point out, there's one thing that a theme that I would kind of always come back to, not just graffiti, but the fact that I'm bicultural, biracial, and white. And you know, Black father, white mother, and even as a child there were some things that I would pull out, like African masks, you know, African ancestry. And then here I've got, you know, European sort of mythology through Thor and, you know, the Vikings. And you know, I'm so happy and proud that these items have stuck around this long. I mean, this is like cardboard. It's been water damaged. It's fallen apart. And this thing, I just have no idea how this thing survived. Paper mache, you know. Again, I had a whole bunch of these. I was very influenced by comic books and African masks. And I'm just really glad that these two items were able to survive.
Wow.
My first experience with screen printing was a t-shirt design contest that I won at Marcy, Marcy Open School. Drew this design in partnership with a classmate. And part of winning the design, we got to go see these t-shirts printed. So we got to see how screen printing worked. And funny story would be later in life, I would own my own t-shirt company and became like this master screen printer.
Wow. It's
like these three items, like I think are the three pieces that are most important to me in the whole show.
They're the foundation, right? Foundation.
Yep, just reliving my childhood. And of course, there was stuff that way before then. My mother tells me that I was a toddler, you know, drawing and doing things. But But you know, these are what's here. Then I start getting into middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Very much into Dungeons and Dragons, you know, fantasy role playing game where you could just live in your imagination, which obviously spoke to me a lot. Being a creative, you're just always dreaming and thinking about, you know, adventures and exploration. My childhood stuffed animal, I actually drew that in '99 when I was a little older, but I place it here because it has relevance in this time period. And moving into high school is when we started doing these graffiti jackets. That was my very first graffiti jacket, and then several people out there. I did dozens of these with, you know, my friends. That was when I discovered graffiti, and then all my high school stuff, my typical high school, you know, portraits, still life drawings, landscapes. You know, just trying to, you know, get your technical chops together.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get into college, where I got into screen printing and just thinking about different concepts. You know, I was very much into martial arts. I still am today.
What do you do? What's your form?
It's Hapkido and Taekwondo.
Okay.
Yep. So I've been doing that just almost as long as I've been an artist. So it's like two art forms in my life that have gone hand in hand. But some of my early studies were about the figure, you know, figures combating, martial art just forms, you know, kind of taking that into a surreal. So then, after graduation, you know, right to hear, who's that?
Brother Prince.
Yeah.
And Jimmy. Yeah.
Yep. So Jimmy, I was way more influenced with Jimmy before I got bit by the Prince bug. Crazy. I was just very much into Hendrix. And so in the early 90s, I was selected as one of the artists for Glam Slam at Prince's Club. And when I had my first show there, I created a bunch of, you know, Cindy Crawford was really famous in the 90s. And so I was very also influenced by Andy Warhol. So I wanted it, and it kind of reflected that Warhol pop look and famous people at the time. And then I've got some other portraits, but again, I had to make some decisions and cut some people out. And so this was like right after graduation. This is when I got into Glam Slam and moved back to Minneapolis. Self-portrait back then, you know, and then I would go back into this whole conceptual idea of just kind of thinking of, I don't know, like your mind, like what can you think about? Getting back into graffiti. Again, graffiti would always surface. Here I'm trying to take the elements, still life drawing, the idea of tagging, printmaking, spray painting, and then doing these mixed media pieces. This is an ode to Andy Warhol with the soup cans, but I'm using spray cans stacked up in a sculptural form. And then back to screen printing, which at the time in the 90s going into the 2000s was the thing that I did the most. It was the thing that I actually tried to make it as an artist on the gallery scene. As you can see, these pieces are pretty decorative and I could sell these. But I just remembered not feeling like completely satisfied. Like there was something missing. I was just doing pretty art. And it wasn't speaking, you know, I didn't feel like I was really saying anything. And you know, I started teaching at this time, and I would have a student every once in a while that could work really conceptually. And I was a little bit envious of that. I wish I could just kind of like create something that would like get people to think about stuff. And the one thing that would do that for me was getting back into graffiti art. So again, that kind of kept surfacing up. And then I kind of fast forward to the whole graffiti thing where I'm focusing on these letters. This is a collage format, gold leaf, spray paint background, and cut paper. These are all formed together. These are different letters of the alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
These have yet to be hung up yet. And then the stuff that I'm doing today, where I do these traditional graffiti motifs,
Mm-hmm.
but then I block them out. If you notice, like walls around town or the city is covered over graffiti, we call that the buff.
That's how it looks. Yeah.
The buff. Graffiti's been erased. And so it actually helped me get back into the one medium that I love the most was, excuse me, abstract expressionism. It just reminds me of Rothko and Newman, the action of painting and just the idea of the motion of painting and just kind of letting it be. So I would do these graffiti pieces and then do this patchwork and then cover parts of it up. So I kind of feel like it's enabled me to reinterpret abstract expressionism into my graffiti. And then of course these are like the things that I do like just the other night. A little peek of this. So as in a sculptural form, I do these stencils in this layering process.
Oh, that's a stencil. Oh, man. Oh.
And behind the stencil is like a graffiti piece that's halfway buffed, and the stencil goes on top. So there's a depth. You guys really have to come to the show and see this. See how it lays, and you can see the shadows, and it's really powerful. And this particular theme, kind of these faces, one of the new concepts that I'm dealing with is again multicultural.
This is unbelievable, man. I'm just blown away at these images.
Yeah, this is my latest series here, because I'm researching like interracial couples. Story starts there. Like these are my parents basically, and I mean these aren't the concept.
The concept.
And so I get their stories based on how they live in society, how people think, the looks that they get, how their family feels about them as a connection. And then who are the children? If they have children like myself, what are those stories? And so that's like the new thing that I'll be doing soon. Another.
Amazing.
These are my kids.
I love it, man.
Yeah. And my
you know,
former students.
It gets me that you have this stenciling or this cutting, right, of the fabric, and that ends up delivering what you want to deliver. I mean, it just seems like it's immensely difficult to impossible to do, but you've done it.
Yeah. Again, that's part of that, like that hustle. Trying to get people to recognize this art form as something that's beautiful, that expresses humanity. Writing, is arguably the greatest human invention next to the wheel. Writing gave us the ability to communicate with each other,
right,
without being in each other's space. It just. Yep. And so,
and over time, over lots of time and great distances.
Correct. And so, just bringing it into an artistic form, writing continues to be that thing that really kind of connects us all. And now we have got phones, and it's like we're starting to get into this idea of like, telepathic communication, using our devices to have real conversations, without, again, not being present, but we can have full-on conversations through texting. And here we are doing this interview.
Yep.
In real
doing
time.
The tour of the gallery, and able to reach people around the world and reach them again and again and again, because this interview is archived and available to be looked at and shared. That's amazing. And so we got about 5 minutes more to go. I wanted to ask you about this idea of graffiti again, of writing, and what writing means to you. You touched on it, the value, the power of being able to communicate over distances and over time. And when you are creating graffiti, what thoughts are you channeling about the nature of what you're doing? Not only the message, but the nature of creating.
Sure. First, it starts. So actually, when I go out and I paint, because full disclosure, I still paint. I still go out. I'm still active. Um, Obviously not as much as I used to. Got some little age happening, but it's first about exploration. I love like discovering nooks and crannies of my environment in the city, and discovering canvases throughout the world to write on. And then I think about like, what is this going to do? Like, how is this message going to be carried across? And it's not so much about what I'm writing, but it's about like the energy behind it.
Mhm.
Again, I'm trying to get people to wonder, like, when they see something in a spot that's challenging to get to, or it's really high up, or it's traveling on a train. People are like, "Who did that? What does it say?
Mhm.
How did they do it?" You're now in a dialogue with the artist. You have this communication, as we talked about, through writing, and people are starting to ask questions. And I think that's on an ethereal, like spiritual level, it's super powerful. Again, it binds us and it connects us. So when I'm out doing that, those things are conscious to me. Even in high school, when I discovered this and I was out doing this, I never considered myself like that I was actually doing something wrong,
Mhm.
that I was destroying property. I felt I was beautifying a space, and
Mm.
giving the ability for someone to go, "Wow, this is great. Like,
Mhm.
who did this? Look at these colors." Find some bridge somewhere that's kind of hard to get to. I definitely, a lot of graffiti writers and graffiti artists and street artists, we seek out our spots, and
Mhm.
we have morals and etiquette of where things go.
Mhm.
Not everybody. I mean, there's definitely people out there that are in it for a little bit more shock and attention getting.
Mhm.
But those of us that are really interested in again contributing to humanity will go out and think about location and how this is going to affect someone. I don't want anybody personally to go out and have to like try to fix anything that I've done.
Right.
Uh, so
What have you done around the world? I've got about 4 or 5 minutes. So a couple of questions for you. One is, where else have you been and done work around the world, around the country? Two is it conceivable that a graffiti artist would have a catalog that shows you where in a city you could find his art, or is that a contradiction to the secretive mission of placement? That's that. And then the third question is, I would love to have one of your pieces on the cover of Insight News next week to promote this show. So would you think about, and when we're done today, if you like the idea, send me an image that we can be full page, full cover for next Monday's, I think that's
awesome.
issue of Insight. Love to have it there.
Thank you. So yeah, if I can zip through these questions, yeah, I'll take the first one. So the graffiti community, the graffiti culture is a very mysterious, anonymous culture, and it's not like there's a Rolodex where you can just figure out who someone is and then contact them. But through technology, you can Google someone's name, and the artwork will usually pop up, and then you can kind of just do your own research to try to find those folks. But I've had people, since I'm accessible through teaching. I'm a little easier to find, and a lot of people will reach out to me to
Sure.
ask questions, and to get more graffiti people involved with art, murals, teaching classes, et cetera, et cetera. Places I've been in the world. I've been to Argentina,
Mm.
and these are all places that I painted and created. I've had art shows. I painted on the street. I've even like kickboxed in Argentina, Mexico, Puerto Vallarta. There's a graffiti fest that happens there each year. Going back this year, and I'm actually bringing 3 of my contemporaries with me. So we're going to be painting there this year in Mexico. I've been to Yugoslavia.
Wow.
Originally went there for a kickboxing tournament. Again, martial arts was really huge in my life, and I ended up doing a world tournament. And it is a whole nother story to get into, but I ended up meeting some graffiti artists in Yugoslavia and them taking me out to go paint. That was just an incredibly wild story. It's one of my greatest trips. Where else? I mean, all over the United
You got to
States.
be you got to be a legend in your profession as a fighter, as a kickboxer, as a boxer, as a martial artist, and a creative painter. I mean, that's wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've done some things, but like I said earlier, it's always a hustle. It's still a grind. I'm still looking for those huge breaks. You know, things are great. I'm feel really blessed. But yeah, I'm still, you know, it continues. You know,
We got a minute left. Let's promote the show.
Gig.
Let people know where and when and how long. Again, give them the address and the name of the project.
Yeah, so it's White Bear Center for the Arts in White Bear Lake. I don't have the address, but again, you can just
Google
type that in.
Yep,
it'll come up. It opens this Thursday, 6:30 is the opening, and it goes till 8:30. And I'll be addressing the crowd at 7. I will say that just looking at weather, it's going to be kind of cold, so. I know that may deter some people coming out, but I mean, it's February, it's Minnesota. Come on, people.
we know what it is.
It's gonna be cold. Come on out. Anyway, I'll warm you up once you get in here. And if you don't make it during the opening, my show is up through March 3rd. So fantastic. You have all of February and just a little bit of a few days in March.
Awesome. Listen, brother, thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful learning experience for me. I'm celebrating you and celebrating your vision, your work, and thanking you. I'm in gratitude for you being you and what you bring to beauty and in beauty to the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Al.
Right.
Thank you so much.
And I'm going to hit you back on getting you on the cover of Inside News, okay?
Yes. Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Okay.
Great. All right. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation. Thanks to Peyton Scott Russell. Go see him. Go check him out. We'll see you next time. Take care.